Good morning, everybody. We are super excited for today's conversation featuring Chris Wolf with First Interstate Bank. We are talking about financing and SBA lending for business acquisitions. So, if you were here and tuned in last month, you got to listen to us talk with Brian Southworth, who's here today, talking about the transition from being an employee to business owner, and what does that look like, and what are some things that you should be looking at. And with the state of the economy and a lot of people leaving their executive roles and lots of boomers retiring, right? We've got the boomers retiring. We've got lots of cash flowing businesses for sale and that will be going for sale in the next 10 years. And so we've got folks like myself who are looking to exit their formal career and start and launch, be a solopreneur, start their own company, right? Or purchase a company that's already up and going. And so we want to talk about and give you guys tools and resources to help you along that path. So Chris, welcome, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, I know that you have decades of experience around commercial lending and SBA work specifically. So would you just take a minute or two to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your background and why we're chatting with you today about this topic?
Absolutely. So I've had 30 plus years in the banking industry, the last 23 of which has been in commercial. And I kind of accidentally fell into the SBA world. And the more I did, the more I really enjoyed it. Found a really special niche and ways to really help businesses, people become business owners. And it's just a really great tool that I think people can be intimidated by. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a big step to buy a business, but it's a really great tool. And so I've specialized in the SBA world for the last 20 plus years.
And it is its own niche world. It's different than the other industries. Like, to find somebody that's really great at SBA is like hitting a gold mine, really, because there are so many tools and resources out there for business owners. They don't know what they are, right? It's like they need to start here. Where do I start?
Correct.
So as folks are thinking about transitioning into business ownership from a financial perspective, what are some of the most common reasons you see people will buy an existing business instead of going my path, which was starting one from scratch?
Well, when you buy an existing business, you have got an established history. You have a cash flow. You have you have a location, products and services, a customer base. And when you are starting your own business, you're forecasting, you're putting a lot of assumptions in and hoping those assumptions come to fruition. And it also gives you the ability of when you're going to start or buy a business, you can purchase a business with a 10% injection versus the 20 to 30% injection it takes when you're doing a startup due to the higher risk because there is no financial history.
Yeah, yeah. And you don't have the projections. You can't see how it's been performing and what you can expect in the
Exactly,
future.
exactly. And um, I know a lot of people want to be their own boss, which is
Yeah.
great. But like you said, there's a lot of great businesses out there. People are retiring,
Yeah.
and a lot of people want to leave corporate America.
Yes, they do. So, can you talk to what are some of the financial considerations buyers must be aware of before purchasing a business?
Absolutely. I think the best thing to do is to start with the cash flow. What does the historical cash flow look like? And will it support your loan request? Now, in the event it doesn't look like it's going to support it, you don't have historical cash flow, the business could be overpriced. You might see some variations in the profitability or in the revenue or in the margins. In that event, that's your opportunity to talk to the business owner and to find out what changed, what happened. Did they have any, maybe some one-time expenses? Maybe they did some tenant
Mhm.
improvements or bought a piece of equipment or paid a signing bonus. And all of those things we can look to add back to the cash flow. And when you learn this information from the seller, this is also something really good to share with your lender. So you both have the concept of where the cash flow is.
That's
The other
great
thing
information.
to
Yeah.
think about is how much money do you as a business owner need to take out of this company? So
Mhm.
looking at historical officer compensation, what did they take? Is that going to be sufficient for you? If not, is there sufficient cash flow to produce additional salary for you as well as make your loan payment? And those are big deals. And if not, what would you change, or how can you make
Mhm.
changes so that it will support you? We don't want to set anybody up to fail.
Yeah.
We want to be their partner, and we want to be
Yeah.
side by side
So
with
what
them.
I hear you saying is if you're listening to this, you really want to, look at your current life. You want to look at your talk to your family. You want to talk about what's realistic. What does our family need if we're going to go this direction so that you have a realistic financial picture that works for your family. A lot of people step over that step. And so that's really, really important because everybody's got different needs.
The other thing I would say too is making sure you have sufficient working capital going in, making sure you've got, whether it's cash in the bank or an operating line of credit. Especially on the front end, there are typically a lot of unexpected one-time expenses during that transitional period. So making sure that you're, you know, fairly solid going into the transaction.
Is there a rule of thumb for folks on how much working
Um,
capital they might
uh,
want to have?
my rule of thumb is 90 to 180 days of your fixed cost
Okay,
charge.
perfect. Thank you. Can you share with us any biggest challenges or misconceptions people have about business acquisition financing?
Absolutely. I think people hear SBA and they immediately think that there is the opportunity for 100% financing. Not the case, not the case.
Hmm.
So, the banks expect the borrowers to have some skin in the game, and this to us, and so does, and SBA requires it as well. But this to us shows that they believe their abilities to be able to run a business, and they take on some of the risk um, as well as invest in their future.
Okay. The next question I have for you is, can you talk a little bit about how SBA lending helps business buyers compared to traditional financing options?
Absolutely. So with SBA loans, as I said earlier, buyers are able to purchase an existing business with a lesser down payment. So they can get in for a 10% injection.
Hmm.
They get a longer amortization. So in your conventional financing, you're going to get a 5-year term typically. In the SBA world, in the 7A world, which is the product used for business acquisitions, you get a 10-year amortization. This helps with cash flow and flexibility for the business, and also allows you to be able to grow,
Yeah,
and it sets you up for success. The ultimate goal is to set you up for success.
right, to win the game.
And yeah, and even at the end of the day, uh, if the business cash flows and can support a 5-year, that's great. Just make larger payments, but it does give you flexibility for any of those obstacles. And the other thing, in the 7A world, we can still finance a loan when it is under collateralized. And we'll talk a little
Mm.
bit further down the road, whereas in the conventional world, that's not going to be an option. And majority of the business,
That's a big one. That's
it's
a big
huge.
one. Will you explain what under collateralized means for anyone that might be listening that doesn't
Certainly,
understand that?
certainly. So, as an example, you're purchasing a business, you're looking to the business assets for your collateral. So,
Mhm.
business assets typically are combined with furniture, fixtures, not always a lot of equipment. I mean, you can get, equipment, vehicles, etc. But when you look at the value of those, which you can't look dollar for dollar, you've got to look at a discounted value, typically will not support will not support the loan amount. So you may have $1 million loan with only $250,000 in collateral value. So with that being said, at that point, SBA requires us to look to the borrower's personal balance to see if we can shore up some of that collateral shortage. Once all available collateral is taken,
I'm getting some feedback somewhere. Do you guys hear that? Where's that coming from?
I don't know. I do hear it.
I'm sorry. Sorry, that was strange.
That's
Sorry, I
okay.
didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was having trouble hearing what you were saying.
No, that's fine. So once all available collateral has been taken, we are not required to turn down the loan because we are under collateralized. So because we get an SBA guarantee, the bank gets a guarantee on the loan. It helps mitigate that risk of being under collateralized. So I have a transaction closing at the end of this month. We are significantly shy in our collateral by approximately $900,000, but we still have the deal approved. You couldn't do
Alrighty.
that. You couldn't do
Yeah,
that in the conventional world.
in conventional, right. Thank you for explaining that. Can you walk us through, I've got to mute you there, Alfred. I'm getting some feedback. Can you mute yourself, please? What are some of the red flags to watch for when evaluating a business purchase from a financial standpoint?
Uh, Biggest red flags that we see are insufficient cash flow to support the request, like I talked about earlier.
Mhm.
And officer compensation or cash flow sufficient to support the buyer or buyers. You know, it may be more than one household that's making the purchase. Maybe you're going from a one person, one officer to three. What does that look like? Um, those are really the biggest right off the top.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I want to jump over to talk about maybe some success stories that you've had because I know that you've had a lot of them. And it's always fun to follow. I know that you have these long-standing relationships with the folks that you work with, right? Because it is a journey.
It
Can you
is.
share a recent success story where SBA financing helped someone acquire a business where they might not have otherwise been able to do it without?
Absolutely. I'm going to use the example that I was just referencing. I have an acquisition closing this month, and the seller had multiple offers on the business, but had somebody else in mind to purchase it. And they weren't in the market for a business. And
Mm.
they already did business with this company, and he approached them. Now, mind you, they were not prepared to make a purchase like this. It's a pretty significant purchase. But with some flexibility from the buyer, being able to think outside the box, getting a little bit creative, and being able to have a longer amortization as well as an SBA guarantee, we were able to get approval on the request. Total project's it's about $1.5 million. It's a nice little project, and it's a super great business, multi-generational, and the seller is right. These people are definitely a great fit to carry this business forward. And I think that's what you really see out there is, as a business owner, you work hard to have a reputation, and you want things to continue on. And it's really exciting and a feel-good deal when you know
Yeah.
that you've done the right thing and you've helped these people get
Yes. And
their
every
best.
time you drive by or you see them in the supermarket or something, it's just like beaming with pride. Like I was a part of that. I helped make that dream come true.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it is extremely rewarding. I think people sometimes don't see that even from maybe the financial or the banking standpoint, how rewarding it is to watch it. I mean, we all are committed to the same thing that small business owners are succeeding and flourishing and prospering right? That's what we want.
Correct.
And
Yeah,
so when it happens, it fills us all up. And folks will step over the language of business, right? What is
agree.
the language of business? It is accounting, right? This stuff matters, but it's
It
not as
does matter.
exciting to talk about. But this is the language of business. And so, the majority of the people, this isn't the fun part for you, but there are professionals out there to help you along the way who really get a kick out of this stuff. So it doesn't have to be your forte. You just need to have the right sphere of influence in place so that you know who to call on, Chris, Brian, when it's time for you to buy a business or you're thinking about it.
Absolutely. And I think both Brian and I encourage business owners to have their professional team. They're an expert in their industry, and
Yes.
have those around you that you lean on and that you count on, that you can reach out and ask questions, or that are going to partner, or that are going to help set you up for success, whether it's Brian negotiating on your behalf, or me walking them through the SBA process, or the CPA, managing their numbers and helping them understand, cash flow and
Yes. Really important, folks, to have these players in mind, right? If you don't know where to
correct.
start, you start by who's going to be on your team to help you with this, right? You
Yes,
put the right team in place first,
correct. Yeah.
and you should start that well before you want to pull the trigger.
Agreed. Yes, agreed.
Right? How far in advance would you say? If I think that I might want to buy a business in about 3 years, I'm going to leave my career and I'm going to buy a business, my uncle's business. When should I start talking to you guys?
Well, I would say I don't know that you have to go that far out, because there's so many things that do change along the way, from
Sure.
loan pricing, etc. But it's not bad if you have the business in mind to share a couple years of the financials at that
Mhm.
time. Let's take a look at the cash flow. What does that look like? Are they trying to avoid taxes? So maybe there's some hidden expenses that maybe we want to show going forward. So, the business owner wants to build the balance sheet to set up for success for sale.
Yes. And you guys help do that, right? You guys help the seller,
Correct.
you guys can help the seller too. So if you know this is a direction you want to go, be in communication sooner than later, even if it's like, hey, I want to introduce myself now. This is my plan. Can you help me put in the steps to win my game then? Because if you've got a year or two to plan, then you can really set them up for an easy sale transition, not only for themselves but for the clients, right? Because the
Right.
clients, the customer
Right.
base will be going through a change as well. Can you talk to us about what industry trends you're seeing with business acquisitions and financing in 2024? Sorry, 2025.
That's okay. I knew what you were talking about. I'm actually seeing a lot of uptick, and I don't know if Brian is feeling this way as well. I'm seeing a lot of uptick in businesses for sale. A lot of people that want to
Mm,
leave corporate America, people
yeah.
that are retiring, and I think especially post-COVID, saw a lot of people, once they
Mhm.
kind of if they survived COVID, they have a pretty, solid business typically, and once they kind of got things back rolling again, I think they decided, that it's time. So I do even see people that are retiring a little bit sooner than maybe originally planned. But as Brian will tell you too, selling a business doesn't happen overnight. And so they're just planning. They're
Yeah, and you have a mailing list, Brian, so folks can get on it to see what businesses are coming for sale in their area. If
Mhm.
they know that
Great.
that's something and they're thinking about it, like, well, I'd be curious what's coming for sale, right? They can sign up and take a look, get that information. What is one key piece of advice for business owners considering purchasing an existing business? If you could give them one key piece of advice that you haven't already shared, what would it be?
I would encourage them to work with a commercial officer that knows SBA, because it's its own animal, and to make sure that that person works for a preferred lending institution known as PLP for the SBA, makes the process easier for them, and just helps in general. And I would also really encourage them to work with someone like Brian to maneuver through that process. It's complicated. There's a lot of unknowns associated with it. And personally, I really try to walk by their side and include the Bryans of the world in communication. So everybody remains on the same page, laying the foundation, on the front end and try to set expectations so they know what they're going to be facing along the way.
Yes, I think that that is really great advice. I had a couple of questions sent in before as we kind of start to wrap up. I want to ask you these of you. What's the biggest financing roadblock you've seen buyers face?
I think probably thinking that they can afford a more of a business than they want to see the cash flow, but with the cash flow sometimes comes a larger purchase price. I think stretching
Hmm.
themselves to beyond their actual capacity.
Okay, that's a big one. That's a big one, folks. So you definitely need some professionals to help you not overextend. And how can business owners prepare their financials to be more attractive to lenders?
I'm gonna say to first the package itself, if they have a solid business plan, putting together realistic projections and assumptions. So, this is what we're gonna do in revenue, and this is how we got to those numbers. So
Hmm.
put your brain around it. We understand that. Having a packet ready to submit as far as basics, 3 years tax returns, a personal financial statement
Hmm.
is really helpful to have on the front end, see where they are financially to help determine are they stretching themselves too thin? What are their financial obligations so that we can have our brain around that on the front end going in.
And help speed up the process
It
too.
it really does.
Yeah,
And it's hard when stuff trickles in. And so yeah, it does help speed up the process.
well, that's great. Do you have any questions, Brian? Do you guys feel like there was something we didn't touch on that you think is relevant for anybody that's going to be watching this content?
I think that you both covered everything, and Chris is so right about business owners that want to sell, having accurate financials, clean tax returns. Holy smokes, if they have a business plan, all those things really help. And key employee, like if a business doesn't have a key employee, the owner's running the business, it's important to understand anybody buying that business is buying a job, right? Because they're going to have to run the business. So,
That's
but
right.
everything you and Chris said is spot on. Really, really good.
Awesome. Well, I know that many of you are probably wondering how can I get in contact with Chris? And I'm going to share her information with you right now. You can reach Chris anytime. She's with First Interstate Bank, and her email is chris.wolf at fib.com. And your phone number, Chris, 509.
995-6432.
Awesome. And so folks can just call you, email you, set up an appointment. Is there anything special you want them to do or bring to those calls? If
Not at all, not at all. I
Okay.
really pride myself in being a resource. And like I said, buying a business is intimidating, like to take out the unknowns, just whatever they have on questions about the process and what that looks like, and maybe questions about a specific business. If they're doing a business plan, what the content of the business plan
Mhm.
is, how to start with projections, any of those items.
Well, I really want to thank you because you're so experienced and so knowledgeable in this area. And I've just continued to be impressed with you as I've gotten to know you. And I'm honored and proud to have both of you in my own sphere of influence, right? Just trusted strategic business partners that I know I can count on, who are an extension of me in the service that I provide. And you are both that. And I just appreciate you so much. Purchasing a business is a major investment, and having the right financing strategy can make or break your success. So, understanding your options early sets you up for long-term growth. So, I thank you for being here. If you have any questions, please reach out to Chris, Brian, or myself, and we are just honored to be a part of your journey.
Thank you, Jessica. Appreciate the opportunity.